The voice of sharing, Durian ASEAN.
Hey, hi, welcome to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. Hi, Jannie Lasimbang.
Hi, yes, Arlene.
Yeah, welcome to our show today. We are going to talk about the public awareness on the delineation exercise. So, Jannie Lasimbang, you are the Vice Chair of Bersih 2.0 on the Sabah region and also the former Suhakam Commissioner. So, you'll be discussing about your involvement on the Delineation Action and Research Team, which is called DART in short, and the importance of public awareness on delineation exercise. But before we start, I want to know, what is delineation exercise?
Yes, thank you and good morning. Well, constituency delineation is a process that takes place every 8 years. It's supposed to take every 8 years in Malaysia. And then the last three were in 2003, 1994, 1984. And this involves the redrawing of parliamentary and state constituency boundaries, no? And so the Election Commission is expected to do this, and for this these exercises coming up is supposed to be the process is supposed to start soon.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering, like, why we need to have public awareness on the delineation exercise.
Well, yes, it's very important to have the public to know this, because they do have a say in the way delineation takes place, and that they can challenge this exercise if it's not legally sound. But the challenge has to be done by 100 or more voters from that particular constituency to be accepted by the EC, the Election Commission, and this must be done within 30 days from the moment the new boundaries are published. So this is, I think many people did not know that they can actually have a say. So that's why the DART has started this. If you look at the Schedule 13 of the Federal Constitution, this provides the guidance, no, on how delineation should be done. It says that we should look at the way administrative facilities is available within that constituency, so that these are necessary for the registration and the polling, and also it should be equal, no, for all this, for each constituency in a state or even in a parliament. So it needs to look at the people who are doing the election in that area, that district, election district, so that it's fair. And also there's also provision that rural constituencies are not disadvantaged, so it doesn't have to be the same way. So there's a measure or weightage for that area. Yeah. So it also talks about having to maintain the local ties. So, if one particular area, say, for example, have the same kind of jobs or occupation, then the representatives, it's easier for the representatives to do that. So it's so important for the public to know this. And there should be an avoidance of arbitrary combination of communities within the same local authority, for example, the same district, where there is administrative district for the village or the district council or the town council. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. But why why you start the delineation exercise? Is it because the EC is not free and fair?
Well, this is what Bersih is talking about, and not just Bersih, but now many other organizations are speaking up. The Election Commission is supposed to be an independent body, but Bersih's analysis of previous delineation and our own, observation, it has, we believe it has strengthened the position of the current government, the BN government. And this can be from the way election boundaries are drawn. See, the ruling government, for example, from our last GE13, they have formed the government even with only 43% of the popular vote. And this have already shown that there are some constituencies that are huge, and particularly those of the BN, and there are small ones from the opposition.
Mm-hmm. So what exactly is the role of EC if it's not, it's supposed to be independent? Like what kind of role that EC should play that it is not really playing right now or exercising it right now?
Yeah, well, the function, the three major functions, the one that we normally see, of course, is the registering and the amendment of the electoral roll, and that is also has a lot of issues, as you know, and then they also supposed to ensure that the conduct of the election is follows the rules, the election laws. Now, the third function is really for them to look at the delineation of parliamentary and state constituency boundaries. So these are their function, and they should do it in a very independent manner. That's why they are a commission, appointed by the king through parliament.
Mm-hmm. Appointed by the king through parliament. So, do you think that in Malaysia, it is still? What is the percentage of fairness of the election commission? Is it totally being controlled by the government of today?
Well, we can only look from the way the comments that are made by Bersih. If you look at the people have been coming out and saying, the indelible ink, the way many of the electoral roll, people in the who come, especially coming from Sabah, how the electoral roll, people have been asking for it to be clean. We see that there's not much effort that's being done there. In fact, the first thing is always the denial by the election commission, and so that's why Bersih has been calling for the resignation of the chairman himself.
But has Bersih worked together with the election commission, or at least air their view or this on the delineation issues that is happening in terms of the voting pattern? This is also related to the claims of oppositions and also by civil society on the gerrymandering of certain areas to gain more votes and all that.
Yeah, it has. In the past, it has called on many of these, brought these issues forward. And it's not just Bersih, but you see how people have been coming out. For example, in Bersih 3, many knows that the EC has not been conducting elections so that it will be fair to all parties. And I think even parties themselves have come forward, put their complaints to the court, but those various problems have been just sidelined in a way. As I said, there's just been a denial, and despite those many complaints in the last election, and we have put this forward, in the Bersih Pemantau report. There's other independent reports that has come up to say, it has not really been clean, it's not been fair, and people can see that with the result of the G13, whereby 51% of the vote actually went to the opposition, but only got 40% of the seats in parliament. That shows that the delineation exercise has not been fair. Mm-hmm. And this is because, in our view, the BN's tight control over the election process has limited the ability of opposition parties to successfully contest elections. The EC is of course, one of the primary instruments that the BN has manipulated the election process for its own political gain.
Mm-hmm. But why only now that Bersih is airing their their concern regarding on the delineation exercise, but why not in the past? Elections has been happening in Malaysia since Independence Day, and no one actually airs such view that we need to ensure a cleaner and fairer election by having this delineation exercise or awareness about it.
Yes, I guess, you can say that these are something that many people were not aware of. There are many, I think, those who have been doing, political analysis and so on, but were not able to come forward. It's only because there's so much outcry now that Bersih itself is pushed to take this on, and the team, for example, the DAT team was formed precisely because people, the group engaged from Johor, groups from Penang who saw this and worked together to ensure that people have a participation in it. And in the past there were delineation, as you said. It's through this analysis that we begin to understand how this process has happened. For example, if you look at the redelineation in the past, which happened prior to election, this delineation, as I said, supposed to happen every 8 years, but in Malaysia it has more or less happened about 10 years. And usually the people here, they look at this 10-year period or 2 terms of government, and this will give the citizen enough time to assess the government's performance. Mm-hmm. In my own assessment, usually people would want to change if they think the government is not doing their job. In Sabah, for example, the people used to change the government every 10 years, the state government.
Mm-hmm.
However, like this 10-year delineation exercise could be manipulated to give advantage a ruling party. Looking at UMNO, UMNO's entry in Sabah, there was a delineation exercise in 1994, and since then, after entry of UMNO, it has been in control of the state government here ever since.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you raised that because a lot of the seats that is being won by the Barisan National Government is in Sabah and Sarawak. So
yes.
Yeah. So in that case, the delineation exercise.
And there's, as I said, there's more than one factor. You look at, as I said, after the 2003 delineation that involved Peninsula, of course, the whole Malaysia, but in particular Sabah and Labuan, there were 20 new seats. And of this, UMNO took 13 in the 2004 general election. Actually, apart from that, there's also a lot of anger by people on the ground because of the seemingly lack of seriousness to clean the electoral roll here. Mm-hmm. The outcry by many Sabahans on the alleged giving of IC to non-citizens to vote during election has been met by denial by the authorities. Both the federal, especially the federal, because this is under them, but also our state authorities, by the Election Commission. Sabah should decide their own future and not others. A party must be assessed fairly on what they have done for the rakyat. People here are frustrated, demanding for clean electoral roll, but neither the EC, the government, or even the court is giving any serious action to this.
That's true. I think a lot of people are frustrated. Maybe it's not just within Sabah and Sarawak, but also in Peninsula. Let's continue again in a couple of minutes, discussion on the general election, more on it, after we return in a couple of minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Voice of sharing. Durian ASEAN.
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
This is Arlene again. Hi, Jannie.
Yes, hi.
So we continue again with our discussion on the delineation exercise, but now let's focus on the general election. What is actually the sentiment on the ground that Bersih has found out during the recent general election, which was held last year in May?
Well, as I said, they've done during the G13, Bersih managed to get independent pemantau from the ordinary people. They looked at looking at the media in terms of the fairness, no, and they have found that really there was a lot of media space that was given more to the government. So they have abused in terms of using the machinery, and that there was a major look at that. I think even in the other independent reports have showed that. We've also shown that those people who are on the ground, who went to monitor, found that there were many people who tried to vote with ICs that are not, well, they're dubious ICs. In terms of other work during the campaign, we found that there were a lot of money, the threats, treating, which are all against what the election law has prescribed.
Mm-hmm. But has this all been compiled into any reports and being also filed into any complaints towards the government?
Yes, there's the Pemantau report has been submitted. It's quite nice reading. It's not very long. It's available from Bersih. This is the Pemantau report, clean and fair, and in question mark. This is available in both English and Bahasa Malaysia. And this has also been submitted to the government. It was also similarly brought during the People's Tribunal, no? And the report is also out.
But what is the reaction of the EC? Do they make any comments about this?
Well, I think the EC itself has repeatedly, well, they said they were open in that sense, but I think this is where Bersih itself has said that they have to do something about it. They have to demonstrate that they are serious about this, because at this point now, we are saying, Bersih itself is saying that are calling for the resignation, because there were so many things that they have not answered properly, and the election in the chairman will have to do this. Bersih is saying, well, we at this moment, because he's done such a bad job, he will have to resign. And that's the call we're making.
He will have to resign, but I bet he won't.
Yes.
But let's focus on the delineation exercise.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about delineation exercise that happened during the election itself. Can you explain more, like how it actually affected the votes pattern in the general election happened last year?
Well, if you look at, it's not exactly like last year. We can already see it from the past. You look at the 10-year delineation that they do. As I said, for example, in the 2003 delineation, there were 20 new seats, and in Peninsula, Sabah, and Labuan, and out of these, 13 were taken at the last general election. So you can see, a very direct impact. There are also the three key aspects or issues that we actually look at is the gerrymandering and malapportionment, as well as teleportation of voters. And the malapportionment is looking at the size of the the electorate, how many voters are in that election district or that constituency. Basically, in other words, how many voters, do you share your elected representatives? And from our analysis of the last election, the average constituency size of DN seats are about 40,000.
Oh, 40,000.
Yeah. Whereas Pakatan Rakyat constituencies had an average of 80,000. So we had as low as 14,000 for BN and, 100 over 1,000 for the Pakatan Rakyat, no?
So it doesn't
So
equal
it's that-
to one vote, one person, and one value. It's like,
That's
it depends
right.
on where you are voting. Your value might be like just probably a fraction of the value of someone voting in probably Putrajaya, for example.
That's right, exactly. So you find that, Thomas Fan from, our team, from that team, was putting it like for your RM1, you are getting so much, for the BN, you're getting 1.26 kilogram of, if you go to the shop, is 1.26 kilogram of sugar. Whereas if you are Pakatan Rakyat, you only get 0.79 kg of sugar.
Yeah,
So your vote value is so much lower.
But how are you going to like perform this redelineation exercise on the Malaysian population? Because some areas they might be very dense, in terms of population, like in the urban areas, but some might be very sparse, like in the rural areas, which interestingly were being won by a lot of the Barisan Nasional seats, and some of it are areas that are special areas, like probably, like for example, the Putrajaya is a special designated area for the civil servants. So how can this work in such a demographic where it is very diverse?
Yeah, so actually if you look at Schedule 13 of the Constitution, they do provide this guidance, they talk about, say the first one, they talk about the having exception for rural areas or rural constituencies. So you don't have to have weightage, the measurement in the same way. So if for Malaysia, for example, they will actually do, a different weightage for rural constituency. Yeah. So I was going to look to the some of the information that I had, but they actually have a calculation of, in terms of percentage, what can be, the rural areas will be much lower, so that they take advantage of how large the area is, no? But at the same time, I think it's also important to remember that it will be also difficult for the representative to travel to all areas. So there has to be a balance for that, And then I think for Putrajaya, more or less people have accepted that it's a small and it's an exception. So there is that exception in the schedule that allows you to do that. But in the majority, it shouldn't be that big, no? So you can't have, for example, as I said, all the Pakatan seats as much as 140,000 or an average of 80,000, whereas Barisan is 40,000. That's double the size.
Yeah.
And that's where the smart apportionment is important to consider, and we can't do that in a clinical way. We have to, as I said, consider the boundaries, the way people. The Schedule 13 talks about. They have to be a link to the local area. So if you're all fishermen or you're all agriculturists in that area, they should more or less try to keep you within that and not try to. There's also those situation where you actually have tried as much as possible not to cross the boundaries of two district boundaries. So in terms of the administrative issues for that particular area, the representative will only look at one particular administrative area.
Interesting. I'm just wondering as well, like in terms of other countries, let's focus on Southeast Asia. Like Indonesia is having its election right now, from the very lower rank of the Ketua Kampung, head of the village, to the highest level, which is the presidential election. But in terms of delineation exercise, it's not as much of a hot topic there when it comes to the redrawing boundaries compared to Malaysia. And even in countries like globally, in countries like the US, they have been exercising delineation exercise, as in like they have their boundaries redrawn for the sake of these political parties to win these seats. but it's not such a hot issue or a hot cause for people to campaign against it. But in Malaysia, delineation exercise has become more and more something that people care about. So can you give the link between what is happening in Malaysia and also what is happening around this region as well as in other countries on how the people there or the society there or even the government exercise their gerrymandering or anti-gerrymandering?
Yeah, if you those examples, I think it's interesting that we look at other countries, especially I think, as you say, the U.S. because I think the gerrymandering came from
the U.S. itself.
earlier days. But if you look at the U.S. and even India, for example, these are huge democracies, huge countries, and it's interesting to note, I was very surprised myself to find out that they have not changed the number of parliamentary representatives since the independence. So there was no seat increase. So that's why I think they have been much more, I think in that sense, there have not been an outcry or at least, as you say, issues being brought up by the citizens or their voters. And because in these countries, I think they have more or less established that despite the increase of voters, it is not so much how many the number games that they're playing, but really whether there's not. I think they're trying to look for representatives. It's also because the increase of numbers also means you have to pay a lot more. The Rakyat have to pay money for all our representatives. And if you look at the time in Malaysia, there was a calculation that we because of the increasing number of representatives in the parliament, they hardly have time to speak. They would have to. Those are things that need to be considered so that our representatives are actually more of a quality representative who are serious about their task in parliament. In Indonesia, in the the recent election, I was surprised that in Sabah is both a worry as well as actually in a way I think it's important what they have done. We had this Pemilu, the kind of election commission that they have coming to Sabah,
Oh, really?
Yes, and they actually came here. They had a very organized way of getting their voters to vote and be counted in the last election. And I think that way they have managed to still I haven't found out whether there were issues with regards to that and postal voters, for example. But definitely what I have seen is that they were very effective in still allowing the citizens outside of Indonesia to exercise their right to vote.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk more about Pemilu because now you raise the election commission from Indonesia. So they came to Sabah for an exchange, for a talk, is it, about regarding on how... Hello?
No, actually it was on the election itself.
Okay.
Yes, for registration and for voting.
I see. So, what was their impression of our Malaysians election commission or our general elections?
Sorry, unfortunately I had not had an opportunity to meet them, so I'm not in a position to answer that.
Okay. So, in terms of countries that has been successfully in trying to ensure one vote, one value, which country that you can give as, one of the example that maybe we can emulate or learn from?
Well, as I said, the fact that when we have a delineation and we are trying to be more equitable in terms of one vote, one value, we have looked at U.S. and India as a way of more and to support our idea of not wanting to increase, the number of seats. I think the political party would have their different opinion because, of course, people want to, win. The objective is really to improve the situation or their status in the election, and that is why I think from our point of view, we are trying, from Bersih's point of view, trying to to also balance that from this one vote, one value. Just going back, actually, I didn't finish earlier regarding the gerrymandering, because these are the issues that were also brought up in the last election, or usually the concern that people have. Gerrymandering is actually a much more difficult thing to prove. And so, as I said, the way boundary is drawn on the basis of information of where solid voters of a party can make a difference. So they can, even within the same constituency, if they draw, the boundaries, even if they have the same number of voters and people, they can actually, by drawing the lines, it could be of where the boundaries are, it can make a difference. And we have seen that teleportation of voters, this is basically moving voters without their consent, dividing sometimes families, can actually support gerrymandering. We look at some of the examples in Johor, in Subang Jaya and Sri Setia, where we found that many complaints of what we term teleportation, moving of voters without their consent, has aided, to me, gerrymandering.
I see. Okay, let's talk about your DART team, which is the Delineation Action and Research Team. You have to highlight about that. Tell me, how did DART form, and how did you become part of it?
Yes, DART, basically, the Delineation Action and Research Team was formed because they of that, concern by many people, is ordinary voters, and whether they can take part, take some action in looking at their own boundaries. So we call it the Citizens Constituency Delineation group, or a kind of exercise. So we went for workshops, and very easy to use, and it can be very powerful. It was developed by Engage, a group based in Johor, and of course endorsed by Bersih. The DART itself was done in the form of a workshop or training, and they have people like Wong Chin Huat, Dr. Wong Chin Huat, who've thought about and have done the analysis of, in the past delineation, what has been the impact. So it's basically to train. We gather people from different constituencies, train them and equip them with, the maps like Google Earth, information that we can get as far as the boundaries are. The maps were obtained from the Election Commission and then digitized so that, you can overlay them on the Google map, and people can actually look at whether, their boundaries are something that they're familiar with. Why are, for example, a natural boundary or, very obvious boundaries like highways and so on are not used. So you can start questioning this. Is there something funny about the way it's done? No? So it trains the affected voters to look at this, and then they will, if they have any question, they can object. So the whole idea of it is really to see whether any of these drawing of boundaries is questionable, and they can actually have more quality and quantity, more objections, and also in terms of the better objection. Because I think in the past people have had, of course, objections, but people do not know the law.
I think a lot of these things happened, I think, right after 1999, and people just started to be more aware, and our civil society scene also become more and more vibrant and stronger. And I think that is one of it.
Yeah, so I myself was like that. I was, in the 1994 and also, the 1994 and 2003 delineation. People were unhappy about it, but they don't even know how to, whether they have
to voice it. Yeah,
because I think most people haven't even read their federal constitution.
That's true.
So for me, it's actually through my exposure to Bersih, and actually going in the last election, to me, looking at how people also very, threatened. These are not related to, of course, the delineation, but the way people were threatened, people were, given, we hear examples of them being coerced to vote for ruling party, but particularly angered by, like taking advantage of people in the rural areas. For example, giving what they had been hoping for a long time, like, their land titles. They were promised ownership to their land. They were promised many things. And that's where I saw there was a lot of abuse during election. And so I was moved to also be part of Bersih. And I was very pleased to know that one of the very down-to-earth program that they have started is this delineation, looking at the whole exercise of communities, in people themselves, talking about their constitution, making it their own, and actually drawing it up, if possible, together with as many people as possible, making decisions from the constituency. That's why it's a very nice program.
But besides. Besides the public awareness about the importance of understanding the delineation exercise, do you foresee yourself and also DART to be a lobbying force for at the parliament level?
We are a bit in Sabah, especially. It's very hard to move people. There's a lot of fear here. People are threatened by small things. Just recently, the last two Sundays, while you have May 1st with 50,000 people going there, here in Sabah, people hardly dare to go out. I feel police here has more, instead of doing their job or facilitating, for example, peaceful assembly, it's more of a threatening to any, expression of their, their sentiments and any complaints. For a long time here, people don't dare to go and complain about government departments not, doing their jobs. So to me, I think that would be a process where people will come forward. It will become a lobby tool. And maybe, a first step to say, what is the meaning of actually as voters that they have the right to decide on their own constituency and their sempadan lah, their boundaries.
Their boundaries. So how has DART's involvement in Sabah? Because I think it's well known that in Peninsular Malaysia they have several workshops on it. But what about in Sabah? And perhaps in Sarawak as well.
Yes, both Sabah and Sarawak has also had that workshop. Our trainers, of course, are very that they already conducted 20 DART workshops, over the last 2 months, anticipating that actually the EC might have brought it to Parliament regarding this. But anyway, for us in Sabah, we held 3 workshops. We had one in Penampang where people as far as Pensiangan, all the constituency in around KK were called, at least 5 representatives, so that they can have the opportunity to learn what's the content, how they can actually do that, and then go home and do their own looking at their own boundaries and actually drawing it. We also had one in Tawau and one in Sandakan. The groups there were smaller and was much easier to train in a sense because they were also more experienced in looking at their constituency, the smaller group. And in fact, like in Tawau, and they already want to lead Tawau and Sandakan. They want to look at how decide on what are their boundaries, and in fact they want to come forward with their own map.
Interesting.
Because, as I said earlier, 30 days. Once the EC has come up with their map for their proposal for the new boundaries, they will have to 100 voters, if they have any complaints, have minimum of 100 has to come forward and say we have.
And that's not easy to organize, right? 100 people within 30 days.
Yeah. So we have a tough job here in Sabah because people, as I said, are not used to coming out especially when it's political. There's still a lot of fear, but I think a lot of people have already overcome that kind of fear, especially when you see it's not about, it's about your own life, it's about your own constituency.
That's true.
About making your decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to know, because in Sabah the political parties are much more diverse than in, let's say, Peninsular Malaysia, because here is pretty clear. It's like it's very race based in a way. So did that reach out to the different political parties in Sabah?
Yes, we did, and I'm quite happy to say that actually, even within both, the individual parties here, but we can't reach. I think just 2 years ago, the registrar of societies have registered something like 20 new political parties in Sabah. It's a shame. I really feel that people, while I respect, their freedom of having their decision, it's also very difficult for people to focus and to understand that the job of our politicians, our representatives, really to do a good job at the Dewan Undangan Negeri, the State Legislative Assembly, and the Parliament. Here, a lot of people still think that their representatives go to wedding, funerals,
Yeah, that's true.
and we find that we don't have quality leaders, those who really know the law, who knows the policies of the state, what the people really want, and try to go for that. And I think they have to be the one to educate people. So there's still a lot of things, and I think these are things that we should, I feel Bersih, those working on electoral reforms, have to look at, and I really hope that the different parties will also look at that. I mean, in the last election, I think there was a lot of effort here to try and unite political parties, not to go for their own interests, which is hard to talk, but really to look at, the betterment of the state.
Yeah, that's true, but it's a long way to go, I guess, to get everyone on board, to understand the importance of the deletion exercise. But just to let us know, the public, how can we participate in any of the DART workshop? Perhaps us in Peninsula, Sabah, and Sarawak. Yeah,
well, basically as I said, because we started this much earlier, 2 months ago, it's more or less done. There are already 20 workshops in, I think, quite almost all the states, Peninsula, and of course done in Sabah and Sarawak as well. But our anticipation is that because it was a very short workshop, it's basically a 4-hour workshop, we have formed our own group, DART teams, we call it, for the different regions. So we have one, for example, Sandakan, Tawa. We have from the Pedalaman, the interior, the northern, and the KK area in Sabah. At least we have 5, and they can actually view this. If there are any new events, they can view it and also contact us. The DART team in the Bersih Facebook. The Facebook is Bersih 2.0 official.
Okay.
There's been so many proliferation of Facebook.
Yeah, that's true. So the
official is Bersih 2.0 official. Yes.
So Bersih 2.0 official. Yeah, we will check on that. I think we will post one of the links to our Facebook during ASEAN as well.
Oh, great! Yeah. You are my Facebook friend.
So that means if people who haven't joined the workshop, and the workshop is more or less done, they can still get more information about it at the Bersih 2.0 official Facebook.
Yes, and they can also contact. From there you can contact the Bersih representative. For example, Sabah is for me, and we can put you in touch with the existing teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope, for me, I think because there's already a call, for example, in Keningau to hold another one more workshop, and we're looking at the dates in which to organize. So we will have further smaller workshops.
Mm-hmm. That's very good. Anyway, Jannie, Lasimbang, thank you very much. It has been a very interesting discussion on the public awareness of the delineation exercise. All the best for the DART workshop and the DART team. Hopefully that it can be a major lobbying force towards all the political actors in Malaysia, and also especially towards the public awareness on the importance of a free and fair election.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you
For the opportunity. Bye.